Greetings, everyone. Tommy Hawksblood here, calling from the Big Island of Hawaii. Today we have a really good show going on. We got a special guest, Jeffery Seelman, and we're going to be talking about a lot of things pertaining to the topics that you read: demons, aliens, and possession. So, just want to go over a few things. In the world today, we got a lot going on. I hope you have time to sit down and relax, or enjoy the show as long as you can. Uh, Call-ins, you can come on the show if you want to be a guest, but there's a chat room open for questions. You can put them in there as well. So if you have any questions or feel later on, you can get in touch with Jeffrey or myself. So I'm going to let him introduce himself to us because he's an incredible person. So Jeffrey, greetings. How are you?
Tommy, always a pleasure to talk to you. I'm doing great. Locked down like everybody else in the world, but we do have some freedoms. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and so at least we're allowed to go out and get as much exercise as we want and all of that. So I'm pretty fortunate.
Well, introduce what you do and a way they can get in touch with you right away so we can go from there.
Absolutely. My website is starclear.com, StarClear, starclear.com. There you will find everything you wanted to know about me and more, and all of my contact information. And also my radio station is now on my website, operating 24 hours a day. And of course, you can also schedule any kind of services through me and online on my website, and or contact me as well with questions, and I can help you with anything, any kind of services, or how to go about getting any of my services, or just questions that you have regarding what I do. Be happy to answer them.
Well, so like I said, it's a pleasure to bring him on my show because he's been a friend of mine for a while, and we get into great conversations about what's really happening in the spiritual world as well as the physical world. So we're going to start with one word at a time, so I don't run them all together. Possession will be the main topic, but I just want to bring a couple things up right away. I just read an article by somebody famous here in Hawaii talking about how the government's creating all the people's ideas of being possessed. There was a special on a couple years ago, and they had a lot of abductees on, and they weren't using the word experiences at that time, but the government guy that came on said, well, we've been doing a lot of dream research and proving that the government's influencing the dream, so everybody thinks they're being taken by aliens. I don't agree with it. Second of all, I deal with abductees, not experiences. Experiences are people that wake up out of a dream and said they were on a trip with an alien. So there's a big separation in that for me. In the UFO world, they're giving up the word abduction more so and using the word experiencer. And basically it means people having a good experience. They don't want to get into the bad experiences, and they're trying to cover up on that, saying aliens aren't bad, they don't do bad things. So I'm a rebel in the UFO world as well as the spiritual worlds as well here on lecturing. Jeffrey and I have similar agreements on certain things. We disagree on certain things, but like all people, we're human, and we go by our own personal experiences. And I had many, and so has he. I mean, people that have no experience, it's a little harder for them to come out and say something dramatic because they didn't have experience in it. I only talk about what I have experienced and I know for a fact. And Jeffrey's been doing what he's doing for a long time now. So if you really want help after the show, get in touch with him. He's one of the people I trust, and I would suggest you call if you know anybody in a serious situation, which we'll get into later. But getting back to the word alien. Aliens are real. I was close to one. I saw thousands of ships. I work with people that have been abducted and work with them as well. So for people that say everything's humbug, that's your choice. It's a free world. You can believe what you want. I put my life on the line. I only do the truth, and I only bring people that I trust totally with the truth. I don't want to put stories out there, fairy tales, and things that aren't going to help people. Jeffrey is one of the few people that I know that can actually help people in this world, in this reality, in the present. Not traveling to the moon or tell them that they're going to be on Mars in 10 years, nothing like that. It's working with a person live right now in the moment. So a lot of people out there give great lectures, sound great. When a person goes home, they go home with nothing. So listen to the show. Questions, please contact us, call us, email us, whatever, or write into the chat. But I'm gonna let Jeffrey just talk about aliens a little bit, what he wants, anything about it before we get into the other topics. Jeffrey, I know you're not so keen about working talking about aliens that much because that's not what you do. But whatever you feel, I'll let you say it now because we'll get into a topic after that.
Well, I've always felt that aliens have been here probably longer than we have, or it had something to do with maybe us being here in the first place, Tommy. We have talked about this before. I've had experiences myself with aliens. When I was 4 years old, I woke up and two aliens were physically in my bedroom. This would be 1963. And it was quite a shock. I was just a little guy. And but since then, after I got out of the Air Force and started my present work in 1992, I've had many experiences with aliens, mostly on the astral plane, and many of the things that I know how to do and do well, I have learned from aliens, not the same ones, different teachers at different times. But it seems to me that, from what I know about the aliens that I work with, which are only good aliens and have no designs upon our planet or anything like that, are just here to help, are highly intelligent and very good at doing clearing work. And many of them have combined non-physical sciences with physical sciences, essentially non-physical techniques in order to carry out physical medicine, which is not something I do, but is something that some of the different aliens that I have met and who teach me things have shared with me.
Well, I got a question already for you. Somebody called in and they asked, uh, "What did the aliens look like? The ones that you said you remember what they looked like when you were little?"
Yes, very different. The ones that when I was 4 years old and I was sleeping, and I don't know why I woke up, but I did, and I saw two round lights at the foot of my bed, actually kind of large. I at first I thought they were eyes. It's the only thing I could think of. Now I had to crack my door cracked so I could. There's a little bit of light, but my eyes were still real fuzzy, and so I really thought that they were like two eyes, uh, almost on cue, as if maybe they could read my mind or something. One of them moved, the eyes separated, and I started to be able to see, as my eyes grew accustomed to the dark, and I could see essentially two small uh, non-human beings in my room. They were wearing the exact same outfits, so I kind of took them to be some kind of uniform or outfit that they would wear in a different situation, and also that the light that I was seeing was actually something that they were wearing on their chests. Essentially, some kind of light that was not shining in my face, so I couldn't see. It was actually self-illuminating. Just to give people an idea, they're saying, "What did it look like?" this product did not exist back then, but if you think of what you can buy in the store today, these round lights that stick on the wall and you push the button and it kind of turns on a hall light at night, kind of a round light about so big or something. That's what it kind of looked like. They didn't have those back in 1963, but to give you an idea of what it looked like, from my perspective, sitting up in bed, because I sat up, right away. I was terrified. I was 4 years old. It was not a calm experience. It was just, I was too terrified to even to move. And so, but that's kind of what it looked like. And I recognized it right away as some kind of technology. And, what it was for, I don't know what they were for, but each one had one of these on their chest. I would say they were about maybe a little bit shorter than 4 feet tall, and they had brown, very thick skin. I wouldn't say scaly as much as it looked kind of tough, because my eyes were adjusting to the darkness now.
Fire in the Sky is a 19...
Sorry about that. I was just trying to get a name. Well, but I just realized recently, Fire in the Sky was back on TV. Now, I watched it again. I saw it a couple times, but I watched it again, and I realized something that he showed in that movie. When he was first taken in the ship, he was in this room floating around, but he saw these alien suits that looked like the typical Greys. But they were the space suits that the aliens wore. Because later in the movie, when he's in on a table and everything, when the aliens come to him, they don't look like what we assume aliens look like. I would say a shriveled up mushroom or a dried date, or how it shrivels up like that with little eyes and beady lip, flat kind of head face. So they look so different than the image that the costume makes them look like. All right. The reason why I said that, there was 2 reasons, but I mean, that's when I saw the movie and I related that to another story. Jonathan Reed, I don't know if you know the story. He was the one that killed the Grey, and he put it in the freezer, and the government came and took the freezer away. He was out hiding from the government for a while and all that. But he had photographs of the Grey that he shot. And the head of that looked like the alien that was described in Fire in the Sky. So, I mean, everybody always says the aliens are with big eyes and all that, whether it's really their spacesuit or their bodies up in the air right now. When I tried to piece that together. Because Fire in the Sky, he's trying to do the movie over. But Jonathan Reed, he's been out public over many years now. He was on Coast to Coast over and over, telling his story. He was on a run, government was chasing him. But just the idea of what the Greys look like. Now, I'm only going to go this real short, but a friend of mine sent me a video while an alien just came to a door a couple weeks ago. But I described it as, did you ever see the movie Ant-Man? Probably not.
No, I think I did. I think that there was certainly, I think it was one made in the 1950s, wasn't there?
Oh, yeah, no, I meant there was a new one where a guy shrinks down and he puts on this little outfit and stuff. Well, the reason why I said that, the costume he wore, like, had a steel head and everything, but the alien that walked up to the door had a head that looked just like that, except its neck was about this wide. Real teeny little neck. So it couldn't have been a costume, because the costume would fit around in a little tube. I mean, his neck was so little. But it's just interesting because, we're so programmed, everybody's programmed to what aliens are supposed to look like and what they think they look like. So over the years, I mean, more people accepted the Greys of that. And I don't know how many people really understand what a reptilian looks like. I'm talking about, there's about 6 to, I say, 8 races here that are playing with us. And they're the ones that are dangerous, not the ones that don't live here. I mean, the Greys lived here and they still do. Reptilians come and go. But the dimensional beings and stuff like that, I classify them a little bit different, because they don't drive around. They don't have to drive around in a ship, where if you're in a physical body, obviously you have to drive around in a ship. And if you're in your spiritual body, astral body, you don't have to travel in a ship. So thanks to Tesla and the Philadelphia experiment, it opened that vortex so they can travel into this dimension more freely. So over the past 20, 50 years, really, uh, more people have been seeing different kind of creatures and entities and all kinds of things coming around. Uh, and it's because of Tesla. I'm not going to say it wasn't, but it mainly was. I don't know. We're not going to get into all that stuff today. I want to get more into what Jeffrey does and what's happening to the world right now, because we have problems. And why are they here, and what can we do to stop it? So I'm going to bring both of those things into what we're going to talk about today, because it's really critical what's happening to our children, why they're growing into these people that are kind of immune to everything, pain, suffering, what people do, crime, what people shooting each other, killing each other. It's like it's just a game to them. I mean, it's like they stepped in a game of Matrix, and that's all they believe it is. Uh, they're not. They do things without the feeling and emotion that we used to have as children. Uh, so, and his reasons, we're going to get into all that. But the word possession, I think, is a little more important, because aliens have been on and off dealing with people, but spirits and demons and entities have always been interfering with humans. Uh, if you believe in Jesus, and he talked about he met with Satan and all that, if you believe in those kind of entities and stuff, it becomes part of your reality. And when they do possess you, there's not too many people that really can help you with that. I mean, for real. You can go to any psychic and they'll wave their hand over you and say you're okay. But when you go home, is it still bugging you? Is it still part of your reality? So I'm not going to explain that, because Jeffrey does that for a living. And that's why I said, if you have people around you or people that you know that are having these kind of problems, we're going to get into all the problems, which I do want to talk to Jeffrey about. But the word possession means some form of entity, uh, life form has been part of your reality, and actually affects the way you think. So I'm going to let Jeffrey get into that right now. All right, I'll give it back to you, Jeffrey.
Well, as you know, I'm going to offer my own opinion as to what I see. I don't think there's anything wrong with kids today. I think what is really going on, I think children are actually more aware than ever before. I think what's really going on is that just young people, unlike me, I'm 60 years old now. I may not look it, but I'm 60 years old. And we didn't have technology when I was growing up. I mean, we had my father had the first VCR on the block, and it was a top-loading Betamax, and it was $1,200, and my friends and neighbors come over just to look at it. We didn't have the internet and telephones in our pockets and cameras in our pockets and all of that. We were not being tracked by our teachers and our parents as to where we always were. And I think that children are and young people are just simply being overwhelmed by information through technology, and also seeing images, videos that we simply did not have access to for good reason when we were young. We were not able to see the level of violence that you can simply click on the internet. When I was growing up, my father took me and my brother to see the most violent movie that was ever made at the time, and that was The French Connection. I think it was about 1972 or so. And I had to be about 13 years old or whatever. The French Connection would be like rated G today. I mean, this is supposed to be like the super violent movie. There's very little violence in it, and it was like really billed as that. And so I just think they're kind of being overwhelmed and they're not used to it. They're growing up with it, and they're simply overwhelmed by the amount of information that is coming. When I was growing up, the national news was half an hour long each night, one half an hour long, 30 minutes. We felt that was enough. And now I grew up during the Vietnam War protests. I mean, we had the same thing going on as we're talking, this happening right now for different reasons. But we felt that was enough. We didn't want to get overdosed by this stuff. Okay, we got the body count. We saw, what's happening in the world. Walter Cronkite, Howard K. Smith, all these guys would come on for half an hour and give us the encapsulated view of what was happening around the world. And now, that we felt that was enough. And then the local news, 30 minutes, and then on to primetime television, and there were essentially only 2 or 3 stations on when I was growing up in the 60s. Now we have more like 3,000, and plus, not including the internet. So I think it's just bombarding them. That being said, I probably have most technology in my home than most people do. I love technology. It is not a bad thing. And I actually had really sophisticated stuff when I was growing up, more than most kids. My background is in technology. So I don't think technology is bad. I don't think the internet is bad. I just think that people under 18 should not have access to violent, like ultra violent movies and images without their parents' permission. Just like when I was growing up, we could not go to an R-rated movie unless we had somebody accompanying us who was a parent or legal guardian, I think at the time it was called. And so also that we need to explain to young people that the internet is new and it's not a finished product. I really think we're about with a telephone where we had 2 tin cans and a wire, which is how the telephone started out. 2 tin cans and a wire. That is how the telephone started out. And I was around working for an internet company when the internet first started, and also doing my StarClear work at night after I got out of the Air Force, years after I got out of the Air Force. And so I'm just saying that, I don't think the problem is evolution. I don't think the problem is young people in any way. I don't think the problem is technology. I think the problem is that young people and people who are unstable have access to technology, access to visual images and videos that they simply should not have access to. We did not see the kind of violence, at all. I never saw any of that until I think I rented a couple of Faces of Death videos and stuff, whatever, when I was, years ago. But other than that, just to see what, just to see one. But other than that, we just didn't see the violence, and so I think that's what's going on with that.
If you watch that movie today, it would still be the most violent movie on the theater. All right. I remember both of them. It was The Faces of Death and The Return of Faces of Death. They showed things there that people never should have seen, except my partner showed me a video last week. In Tibet, they chop up the body and they feed it to the birds to eat. And they showed the bodies with the heads cut off and cutting the bodies up in pieces and all that. For a child to see that, it would be pretty shocking, I think. But
well, I don't think I was even a child. I don't think those even came around until the 1980s or 90s. I was an adult. I became an adult in 1978. I turned 18 in 1978 and went into the Air Force after high school. I'm talking about, that was those were a series of videotapes that were made of people who recorded unfortunate things that had happened around the world. I don't think when I saw that, I think I was about I was over 30 years old, and I simply I am not advocating children looking at these things. It's very just some of that stuff was very disturbing. Anytime somebody meets a violent death or whatever, or is suffering, or there's or aftermath, it can be very, very disturbing. So I'm certainly not making, saying these things are okay to watch. What I was saying was that was my first experience. God, I had to be over, 30 years or older, to seeing any kind of violence like that. And so, but today, you can be 8 or 9 years old, go on the internet and see pretty much anything you want, including pornography. I am not against pornography. I am against children watching pornography, or at least something that's over their head anyway. I'm sure there kids would probably disagree with me and whatever. It's not necessarily, I don't think it's harmful, as long as it's just simple stuff. It's not illegal or anything, but we didn't have access to those images back then. We had to go into our father's drawers and steal them, for a couple hours like everybody else.
But here's the thing. Faces of Death came out in 1978. All right. That was a while ago. So, but here's the thing. That's one thing. What's on the internet now, there's no restrictions. Any child could get into any site and see horrible things. I'm working on a book. It's just about done. And it's about one of the most serious problems in the world. I call it RAPE. And that's basically what I feel is the destruction to the world itself. And my book's going to go into every aspect of that. Because right now, it's being children abuse, women abuse, even animal abuse. And then we talk about how that affects their growth, their life, their respect to life, what it does to women, what it does to children. And the problem with that is if you go to, you don't drink, you don't do drugs or those things, right? Or do you? You don't have to admit it.
Well, I do not drink anymore. I used to, but I'm 60 years old and I don't drink anymore, but I certainly used to. But I've been a long time advocate for the legalization of marijuana and hashish.
Well, I agree with that totally. But here's the thing. If you go to a frat party, a college party today in the moment, what happens at those parties, the way they drink is crazy. The drugs that they use at parties are crazy. When they take a shot and they put in the beer and they gulp it down and they hook themselves upside down to a keg of beer and flush it down their mouth or even stick it up their rectum. They do lots of horrible things at parties. And the problem with that, when a girl's drunk, a guy abuses them. And I can give you the numbers. They're extremely super crazy. So the problem, like I said, it stems from that. But why? Where did they get these ideas? How did they get those ideas? They're getting them from somewhere. It's not just popping into their head to do this really weird thing. So, like you said, the only way we could see something like that was in our father's drawer and pulling it out and peeking at it. But it wasn't mainstream. I was 12 years old when I saw my first Playboy magazine. It was on the street. I didn't even know the difference between a male and a female, really. All right. I had abuse going on in my life, but it was in the dark and things happened. So I didn't know the difference. But today, by doing my book, I found out facts that are so incredibly horrible. In certain states, it's allowed for policemen to rape a prisoner. And I'm not kidding about that. There's so many laws on the books. Sexual acts are illegal in a lot of states. They never took them off the books, like 69. Yeah. So there's these little things that outside of that, when you get into these movies now and how they kind of combine sex, they don't show sex that much in a lot of the normal movies, which is a good thing. Otherwise, I think it would be good. But the problem with morals, relationships, I know good families and the father tells the son, don't have one girlfriend, you need a few of them. And all these, it's men that pervert the children in a lot of cases, which I'm noticing. It's usually not the mother. The mother doesn't say go out and have sex with 10 women or whatever. So, and then when we get alien abduction, the first thing they know is they're stripped naked. And then they start doing things to them. Everybody I spoke to, the ones that don't remember when I did hypnosis and regression, it's the same thing. The grays only take two things from us. And it's not like they're here to use our brains or DNA. They need blood, and they do need semen and ovaries. And that's all. That's what they take from humans. Uh, and I dealt with at least 1,000 people directly, people that I know. And I saw proof. I saw X-rays and sonograms of the child that was there that wasn't there the day after. So it's real. It's not an imagination. So when people go on about, well, that's just, they don't believe this. I mean, government doesn't want to admit to that. But the amount of abduction that's happened now is crazy. I'm in Hawaii, and I'd say 1 out of 10 people saw a UFO close. They saw it go into the ocean, or they saw an alien. I mean, and I'm not kidding, 1 out of 10 people have their own story to tell if you let them tell it. I was going to bring them on, but I don't want to make Hawaii sound like it's the alien turnaround, which it is. I mean, if I go out in the morning, I could see 10 ships in one morning. So it's incredibly.
I live 2 blocks, Tommy, from Lake Michigan, and Lake Michigan is the largest inland lake in the United States. And so our area here is one of the hotspots of reporting of UFOs. And so it just makes sense, you know, if you're going to have a base on a foreign planet and you don't want to be detected, and you know that the current occupants, which are us, are only so advanced, and we can only go so deep, and we can't cover the entire, you know, lakes and ocean bottoms. That's a great place to have a base. So it just makes sense that they would operate from the bottom, you know, from someplace in the ocean, someplace, you know, in the deep lakes. That's where I would certainly do it if I was landing a spaceship, you know, and didn't want to be detected.
Oh, no, I agree with that, too. I just got to tell you, there's 2 questions in the chat room. One of them is that you should bring more uplifting things into your life, into your... But, you know, when you're locked into your house, you're limited to what you can do. You're stuck with your computer. You're stuck with your TV. You know, some people play games, which is a pastime for a lot of people. But the other problem is when you're locked in and you can't get food and you start getting hungry and then a lot of things start happening. These people on these lines waiting for food and things like that, things start changing. But, you know, when people talk about this, that, and the other thing, they relate to the people they know, their reality they live in. The world has 7.4 billion people, and 90% of that are starving and homeless. They don't have a way to think about anything pleasant. They're only hoping they can eat that day. So when people say, well, do this, rich people could say that. And when they give lectures, oh, you're a 5th, 6th dimensional being, and you just have to go to your higher self and all that. Morals don't exist on this planet no more. So when people think aliens are going to bring us the truth and teach us things, there's, oh, the little guy, huh?
Yeah, my cat, just so you know, if you see a black thing moving back and forth, it's not your screen. That's my little kitty. Her name is Night.
So, you know, I have a problem because I write letters to all the people that put these lectures out there. I'm not going to go through all the names of these people. In the UFO world, I go after all them as well. I said, if you're going to put something out there that can help them in any way. Not sure. If you go home feeling good, that's one way, right? But removing a problem like what you do, which we got to get into. But when people have problems, there's no doctors can't help you. Doctors give you drugs that make you sick. They don't cure you. You go to a psychiatrist, they know very little, and that's a fact. Psychiatrists become psychiatrists because they're trying to learn about themselves, not really because they're trying to help other people. I could tell you what doctors said to me, what they experienced and stuff. He's coming on the screen.
I'm on the show. Your show's coming up next.
So, yeah, we're in this real world, but I met many people have possession in their life. But before I go into that, one last thing. When I was young, I was doing ghost busting, and uh, I was starting to do hypnosis and regression. But a lot of children I know still saw demons in their closet coming out from under the bed and things like that. And adults never dealt with it. They didn't know how to deal with it. Uh, on one hand, they tell them the boogeyman's going to get you, but when a child sees a boogeyman, oh, he's not real. So these little stories that are fed to children take them away into this lie truth situation. They don't know the difference between God and Batman. I mean, it's superheroes, they're super beings, and they're all real until they turn what, 8, 9, 7, somewhere in there. You start losing that they're all real, that they're all fake, and then, well, God's real, and then a child to say, well, why is God real, and all these other things are fake. So it's programming that parents do to their own children. So, and now we have aliens abducting people and possession. Aliens, and I'm going to tell you what I know as truth. When they abduct a person now, they give them a program of what happened when they were abducted. All right. And it's a program, meaning, oh, I was on a ship, we had dinner, they took us to Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and we saw all these aliens. And whatever the story is, it's a story. Now, on the other hand,
that was your animal, not mine. My cat does not bark.
Well, we shouldn't tell the people that. I'm thinking your cat.
Just so you know, my cat does not bark.
Izzy,
his dog barks.
You want to get on TV?
Let me just say this, Tommy, before you go on here. To answer to this person in the chat room, if I caught them correctly, this is the way I look at it. Most people are good, some are not. Most aliens are good, some are not. In this big wide universe that we have, on the physical side and the non-physical side, you're bound to have some very, very negative aliens and negative spirits operating. And so sometimes negative things are going to happen, but also there's a lot of positive things going on with aliens and spirits as well. And so I don't think it's a good idea to focus on the negative. Even my job is to get rid of the negative, but I don't live that kind of life. When I don't have that kind of relationship with spirits or aliens, it's a very positive relationship. As a matter of fact, besides working for some clients that had some problems with negative aliens that I had to work with, not necessarily a good idea to threaten those with massive weapons, but you can sometimes reason with them. I have found in my own work, I've actually never spoken to a negative alien. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just simply saying that I don't deal with them because in my position, it's more of a teaching situation where I'm being taught how to do my work better by really, very smart, intelligent aliens, most of whom are astral traveling, certainly, for their own reasons. I would guess because they simply would not be able to survive in our atmosphere, pressure-wise, and would have to wear suits. When I was 4 years old, the aliens were physical. They were not wearing any masks that I could see, nor did I see any field around them that was visual. That either they were able to breathe our atmosphere, and also the aliens that I'm, or they had some kind of field around them that I didn't see, or system to breathe, whatever, or they didn't need to breathe. I don't know. But the aliens that I've dealt with that have come to me to teach me how to do my job better, besides spirits, the aliens also that do not look anything like what you consider to be the Greys. Very, very different looking creatures. Not anything like that at all.
we're going to move into what you do, but I just want to finish up a little bit on that because realize, and people know, should know, aliens have been here for 50,000, 100,000 years already. All right. And the world is a reflection of what they allowed us to become. If you're aware of the time of history when other races lived here and stuff, what happened to those races, who actually taught the Egyptians and everything else. I'm not going to get into all that today because we got a whole different topic. But as far as going back to the beginning, what did they give mankind? I can tell you, there was a time on planet Earth when 9 races lived here, and they were different colors, not just the 4 races that are here now. And they lived in perfect harmony. Alien races came down here and destroyed that world. It was called Atlantis. After Atlantis, mankind became massive killers. And then suddenly that became a part of reality. All through ages, it was killing, sacrifice, which is their way to protect themselves and always give killing and sacrifice from the Egyptians, the Mayans. All through history have been doing that. Never mind, women were never accepted until, and this is a fact that I learned the hard way, love wasn't really here ever until Jesus came. Jesus wasn't a preacher of love, he showed it. And he had his followers learn to respect their wives. Women were never accepted, and women were still treated very badly until what? Women got their rights to vote, but they're still sex objects in 90% of all TV commercials, all movies, and it's still a perversion of that aspect. And I think that came from the whole belief system of Adam and Eve, believing in that story. But the Pope came out 2 years ago and said Adam and Eve was a fake story. So the idea that man was here first and women came out of him makes man think they're better than women. Or there has to be a subconscious reasoning for that.
That would make us all completely inbred if there were 2 people. It clearly states in the Christian Bible that there were giants living on the earth at the time. They never said who the giants were, but the idea is that, I think of this possibility. Maybe we are the aliens. Instead of saying that the aliens are, came down and man was here and all this kind of stuff, maybe that, we simply are, refugees from another planet, maybe from our own solar system, possibly, from Mars or Venus or something. It's not really that far out. There was an article in the news a couple of weeks ago that scientists now feel that Venus was very, very, very different, several million years ago. And so, it's possible that something happened and we came from there. It's possible that we might have come from Mars. Scientists think there was probably, flowing water on Mars at one time. It might have been very different. We could have came from another solar system, another galaxy. I'm not saying for sure there were aliens. We certainly are very different. I believe in evolution, but I also believe in creation. I think both of them are hand in hand. And it's not a religious thing. It's just how I think, that I think that there are, that it's a process of creating a physical and non-physical universe is something akin to being a baker. And so a very sophisticated process. And so I think, it's very interesting that, we really are, I don't think we're better than any other life form on this planet, because I think every sentient creature has an individual soul. So listen to me out there very correctly, very carefully here. I am saying that each animal out there, each insect has an individual soul. I'm not saying that we're better than them or worth more than them or anything like that. But I do find it interesting that we are quite different in that we are the only species that builds skyscrapers and international space stations and spaceships to go to the moon, and also unmanned spacecraft to go out there and say, hey, we're here. Come and say hello to us. I think that we're definitely different, and so it's possible. It's possible that we were once from somewhere else and possibly simply came here to live.
Well, what I know for a fact for myself and my belief and my truth is the four races that are here, red, yellow, black, and white, are four races from different universes. They didn't come from the same seed. They weren't born the same way and in the same place. Uh, and if you go back to the beginning of history and you talk about Thor the Atlantean and how the creation of the humankind and all that happened, Thor was supposedly the one that brought the nine races down to this planet. Uh, we aren't the same. I don't see how anybody could say we mutated from a black person, which they also tried to say everybody mutated from a black person. Uh, the native people have a totally different DNA than any other race on the planet. So that proves that they're not grown from the same seed. Now, on evolution, I totally disagree with that. I'll prove it in a lot of different ways, but basically, a dolphin has the exact same brain as a human does. And there's no link between a dolphin and a human. So you can't say if we went from a cell to a amoeba to a two-cell creature to a butterfly to a caterpillar to a lizard to a camel and evolution there, and then say a monkey became a human. They stopped breeding. The caveman disappeared. See, the way I look at spirit lets things unfold and then it takes it away. When it's no longer useful for it, it just disappears. Dinosaurs were taken away completely. Sure, there's some creatures here left, a few of them. But in general, the one creature that's been here since ever was a roach, the oldest creature on the planet. But it lives here. It was probably created here to stay here. It's not going to go into the heaven or the higher realms. I don't know how you deal with them, but I traveled the higher realms for almost 35 years. The world past the astral plane is incredible. You don't deal with any of things at any level that you can deal with or have to deal with in this realm. The astral plane is a little different. You don't have to eat. You don't have to do things. You do what you want. You can fly if you want. So you're in a light body. So it's so much different than being in a physical body. You still there? Hello, Jeffrey, you got cut off? Let me just check one thing. Don't go anywhere, anybody. I want to see if he's still alive and well. Let me see if I can get him back. I don't know if it was on his end or my end. One more second. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to see if I can get him back. Hopefully I can. I'm not sure. Well, I hope he can get back in. I don't know what happened. So I'll just finish with that thought. We all have different belief systems and ideas of how life came, went, and dwells here, and what it does, what the reason for it to even be here is. Sure, there's certain people that try to tell you that it's all one purpose, it's all one thing, and that's each individual choice to make that decision. But we have the ability to grow beyond the programming that people give us. I don't know if Jeffrey's coming back, or if he something happened to his computer or not. I hope we just didn't pull up the show. But for me, the word of which I wanted to get into him with is called possession. Possession is a sad thing for people and families that have to go through it. Now, I know on TV alone, there's about 10 different shows that are dealing with spirits and ghosts. And with all the true technology, Jeffrey supports in technology, that they're actually learning to communicate, talk to them. The only thing I'll say about it, I'm going to watch them all just to see what new inventions they're trying to use and how they say they use what they use to get what they film, the ghost spirits walking through the walls, coming out, touching them and things like that. when they're going through people, all these things they can measure with these machines that they're using. Uh, the benefit of it. Is there a benefit of any of these shows that they're showing? Let's see, I'm trying to get on. I hope this computer didn't crash. Well, I don't know what to do. If he's going to come back, I hope he will. But I will change the subject until he comes back because he's the one that deals with possession in a credible way. He works with people daily, uh, learning how to fight it, how to get rid of it, how to change it, how to deal with it. And there's very few people that can actually do that. Like he says, he works with whatever's actually, if there's something really attacking a person, he works with that. A lot of times it's not. It's the subconscious and programming that allows the idea to be there. And the subconscious even has the idea that I want to be possessed. I want this. I mean, there's a sickness, dual personalities, and things like that. Uh, Science is one level of understanding that, but the medical field has very little understanding of that. So, I mean, if you watch The Exorcist, the movie, or any of the movies about it, going to a hospital because you're possessed, you're not going to get much help. Going to a doctor, a normal doctor, you're not going to get much help. Because you can only work at the level that you're at. And there's spiritual levels of that, depending what level you climb to. So, hold on, let me just see something here. I thought he was there, but he's not. I don't see him. I don't know what happened. Well, if he comes back, great. If not, I'm sorry that you got taken off. I had to leave. But okay, here's the thing. When we go through life, we're a victim of the things around us. Meaning, when you're little, it's really hard to fight what you don't know is true or false. So the more programming you get on something, the more you'll accept it, especially until you learn the difference. So a lot of children are forced into their conditions. So we just entered the chat room. So here's the thing. When you get your inner awareness of who you are, meaning I'm me, I'm not what everybody says I am, I'm not what other people think I am, call me, and you're you. And you say, hey, I'm this. I can be anything I want to be, which is true. But when your father or your mother says, well, you're going to be a preacher, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a truck driver, and that's what you hear while you're growing up. It's the best thing, it's the best job. It starts affecting the way you think. You hear something too many times, it becomes part of your reality, good or bad. In the old days, they used subliminal images in movies. So when you watch the movie, they would flash a scene in there for a split second. You don't see it really, but your subconscious sees it. And it's a way to make people do things that they normally wouldn't do or want to do, buy a product and things like that. But again, it's all programmed based on things that people want to hear or want to see, thinking they want to. Like the biggest thing in the movie world, TVs, commercials, is sex. You can see two good-looking people dancing, walking, going down the street, and you have no clue what they're selling until, if they even tell you, buy Levy. Okay, we know Levy is a gene, but a child watches the movie, doesn't know Levy by the name, so they don't even know what the commercial is about. So, I mean, I can watch a commercial today, and once in a while, a commercial. What are they selling? You have to be really careful because somebody's on the TV commercial taking a drink, going out in the rain. What are they promoting? An umbrella, shoes, clothes, jewelry, eyeglasses. So, a lot of times you'll get a misplaced image in your consciousness of what it is or what it isn't. So children have it really hard when games come out, and they actually like take your awareness and pull it into this little box that you have in front of you called your computer. Now, any age will get addicted to a game. I have never been addicted to a game since I was little. I played one game for a year, but I managed to find 4 flaws in the actual game because I didn't think like the way most people think, and I don't play the way most people think. So I'm walking around, this guy's little walking, and all of a sudden he's upside down, and he's just stuck there. And I had to call the company up, oh, that's a flaw. How'd you get there? And everything. So, you know, when most people play a game, they have this pattern, and children are being pulled into this pattern of how to think. I'm not saying it's a bad way to think, because a lot of computerized ideas come out of children when they think in a programmed, computerized way, meaning this leads to that, this has to lead to that, that has to lead to this. It's not about experience and the in between that, the truth and the lie, that space that goes in between that. When's the lie become the truth, and when's the truth become a lie? The exaggeration of both. Somebody said they were playing a game and they couldn't get through it. Like I said, I played this game until I got to the very end of it. But I played games, not recently, but a long time ago when I was playing a couple games here and there. Played a little bit, didn't get locked into it. Some people have to play it every day. But the games that people play, which I didn't get into with Jeffrey, 90% of them are killing games. Okay, you got to kill something or somebody, some creature, some terrorist, whatever it is. And some of the games, which is Grand Theft Auto Race, which was the #1 game for many years because it was 1, 2, 3, 4. Like every year they put out a new one. But you could take on who you wanted to be, the good guy, the bad guy, the innocent person. I mean, it's when you play the triple role, you lose who you are. Hold on. Easy, stop it. And you have to decide which way you're going to go. And then suddenly you're thinking like a killer, or you're thinking like a robber, or you're thinking like a policeman. When movies came out when I was younger, like I don't even know what it was called, but you're actually driving cars and you got to hit people and you get points for every person you hit with the car. I mean, it was a movie. And, little things like that affect you because some things stay in your consciousness. Everything you learn becomes a little wrinkle in your brain. So a baby's brain is perfectly smooth, and then it starts getting all these wrinkles in it from every thought and program and idea. Is it a good thing or bad thing if you kept your brain perfectly smooth? You wouldn't have that much awareness here on this planet. But soul, which is the other part of who you are. Oh, here he comes. He's coming back. Hold on. Jeffrey, you're
Hi,
back.
everybody.
How, you okay?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It just froze up, and that was the end of that. And so, I got it back. So it's on now.
Well, cool. Now, we finished up the first hour, so let's go into your life, what you do, and what you do for people, because I think that's the main reason why I like to bring you on and have you talk to the world, because we think different, but that has nothing to do with what you do, because you do things that help people with these kind of problems that we were talking about here and there. So the first step is give the people out there the definition of possession so they have an idea what it really means.
Possession is control by an outside force, usually associated with spirits. It can be done by living people as well, but that is very difficult. And so it's usually done by non-physical beings that form a connection with, or link up, essentially, form a connection, usually unwanted, but that's not always the case, with essentially a host. a human being. And the major goal of that is to control that human being and to get them to do things that they would not normally do.
Like I would give my own definition, but like yours is perfect because you know and deal with it always. So, what we have to realize is he's been around it. He understands things way more than I could because I don't do it, and he does techniques that I don't know very few people could even do because he does it. He helps people over the phone as well, which is something I wouldn't even want to try to do. It's not in what I feel is my reality. But again, he's the person people should search out when they need help and that kind of help. So let's start with what really pulled you into that to get you started to do it.
I was born with psychic abilities. I did not know it at the time. I was able to see spirits, not all the time, but it just happened, and I thought everybody could. I was also able to remember all of my dreams. I thought everybody could do that as well. My mother told me before she died, not on her deathbed or anything like that, but I mean, we had conversations for several years, and about some of these things that happened when I was young. And one of the things that I would do when I was young, she said, which I forgot about because I don't do that anymore really, that I would tell her things like, grandma's going to call at 8:20 tomorrow morning. And and she would. And so my mother would take these things in stride because I think she was just very psychic and just accepted me for who I was. My father she said was pretty upset. But this is something that went on when I was pretty young because I don't have a lot of memories of doing that. What I do have a lot of memories of is seeing spirits. I was also very sensitive to emotional energies and environments around me. I really was very uncomfortable in the classroom, going, into grade school, elementary school, this thing, high school even. I went to the same elementary school, grade 1 through 6, as my parents did. Both of my parents actually went to the same school and then ended up moving away and moving back and somehow meeting and getting married. I never really did hear the story, but and then I went to the same high school as they did as well. And so what I'm trying to get at is that these were very old buildings. And they were very nice buildings too. They were not wooden shacks. They were just brick buildings that were very old and had history to them. And there was a lot of emotional energy in the atmosphere. And so I was always very sensitive. I saw trouble coming. I think a lot of your listeners and viewers here could probably relate to the concept of getting warnings about people and places and not to do things. I would get a lot of those. And so when I was in high school, one of the things that I could do for people, and I didn't charge them or anything because I was usually involved in this stuff, but say that people wanted to go out and smoke something before class or whatever. This is back in the 70s, and so I would go outside with them and I would get this 30-second warning in my head, and that a teacher or the vice principal whose job was to harass us, I don't know what else he did really, but he's not a bad person, but I mean I don't know what else he did, but would come out the door and try to, they wouldn't run after us, or anything. It was just more like, hey, what are you kids doing? Well, they knew what we were doing, but I would get this 30-second warning in my head and say, okay, time to run. We'd all run, and lo and behold, 30 seconds later, that a teacher or the vice principal would come out, or a police car would pull up. My high school was right in the corner intersection of two very busy streets, so the police would be coming by. And so this is the 70s. We wouldn't really even be hiding. We'd be just like standing outside of the door, essentially smoking weed. I didn't smoke cigarettes, tobacco, and then they really didn't do anything about it. It was just a matter of, hey, you kids, stop that or don't do that. 70s were a little different than they are today. They didn't have drug testing or screening or all the things, kids are putting up with today, which I disagree with, just my own feeling that kids are just way too much under the control of adults today.
I agree with that 100%. See, when we talk about children, like I feel bad because they're our future. No matter what we do, what we create, they got to live with the food we create, the air we create, the water we create, and we're destroying that. And I mean, it's not the children's fault. I mean, they're not growing, and they're the ones that want to stop it. They want pure water. They want clean air. They want food that's edible. But see, the FCC.
I do too.
I know we all, people that have awareness of life, want edible food that's healthy. But whatever, Food and Drug Administration, they want to make sure we die.
Yes, I have less than no respect for them.
Open the door.
Your dog knocked on the door?
He's standing right by the door.
That's pretty funny.
So, I guess maybe I'm too loud for my partner in the other room. But here's the thing: we have to work together with our children. We got to respect them. If we want respect, we got to give it. So, if a child says they feel bad or something's going on, listen to them. Not the way when I was young, our parents never agreed with anything we said or did. Oh, well, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's not real. It didn't happen. Or you're just making it up. So it's pretty hard that children now are aware. They are becoming aware, but they need help to move that forward. They don't need to bring it backwards, because children see light. They see a lot of things. They can experience things a lot more. So when parents don't become aware of themselves, they can't teach their children to become aware. So parents should, if you're going to have a child, you need to be a little more aware of life, death, and everything around that. Like I said, I use the word protection. You teach protection too. Another word that's really critically important for people. But you go out to a club, you hang out with these drunks and people going crazy, you come home and you tell your kid go to bed, or you give them a drink to drink at night. We don't respect each other enough. So when we say world peace, yeah, that's a great idea, but respect starts in the home, and it's with your children. And they have to, that's how they learn to respect you as well. But you feed them games.
I do think, though, that we're being had to a certain extent, Tommy, by the media, because if you look at the statistics, you'll see that there's actually less violence happening in our world right now than there ever has been before in history. It's just not true. We have more laws. There's more police. There's more, protection. There was a time when you could get away with, the kings, rulers, feudal lords, whatever, would kill 10,000 people at a time. So this idea of the world's becoming more violent is just simply not true. It's actually becoming less violent. We have a lot of growing up. What's going on is there's a camera on every street corner, and so it's picking. When something happens, that everybody's focusing in on it. Focusing on it, and so we're just paying attention to it more. So that this stuff just wasn't. Like I said, that's why I said at the beginning of the show that the national news was half an hour long on any television station. There was only two of them, by the way, when I grew up. Two television stations. ABC was not even invented yet. There was NBC and CBS. That was it. and they had their national news was half an hour long. After that came the local news. That was half an hour long. Everybody thought that that was quite long enough. They gave us the body count. They, this is what's going on in the world. See you tomorrow. And of course, if something happened, they'd break in with a special report. But the idea is that we're just locked into this stuff. Somebody gets killed, in some place in some country, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, the whole world's falling apart. People have been getting killed for a long time. It's not right. But I'm saying that we're just focused on this stuff. The news, you can't run a 24-hour news program without focusing on the same thing over and over and over again. Let me give you an example very quickly on that. 3 years ago, I was over in Holland. I was writing a piece of my second book, which is coming out in about a month. And I was just about to leave for Germany to see a band and meet that band, what's left of Genesis. And I had a VIP pass and also work on my book a little bit more. And Berlin, Germany. And when I was in Holland, I was watching television. And at that time, this guy in, I think it was Sweden or something, had run a truck into a mall or something like that, killed a few people or whatever. And they just went over this terrorist thing again and again and again and again because he was from a foreign country. He was not from Sweden. I mean, it was just, and they showed the scene over, like, I don't know how many times. Well, it turns out he's not a terrorist. Turns out he was upset because they would not let him stay in Sweden. It was, and just got upset, and he drove his truck, whatever, into a mall, and he just lost it, and it was an isolated incident. But they spent, like days and days showing the same footage from these security cameras over and over again until, you thought the world was falling apart. And here it was, an isolated incident, nothing to do with terrorism, just some idiot that lost his mind and decided to do something terrible. And so we just, I think people are just watching the news too much. I think people are, you can do what you want. I'm not telling you what to do out there. I'm not even suggesting it, really. But I would certainly, think, hello there. I would certainly think, that, to be very, very careful about how much news and violent information that you take in, whether it be young people or old people. I don't think anybody is dealing with it real well. It's just too much. This 24-hour news cycle, I just don't agree with it. I mean, they can do what they want. They can have all the news programs they want, but I'm just not going to watch them. I'm very up on what's happening in the world. I mean, I know what's happening in the world. I read, I look at videos, I see what's happening. I can tell you today's news. But what I'm saying is that to constantly watch this stuff over and over again gives one the impression that everything is falling apart in the world, and it is not. Or that young people are the big problem. They are not. Or that black people are the problem. They are not. Or that white people are the problem. They are not. Or the Republicans are the problem, and they are not. Or Democrats, it's just, they have nothing better to do than the news, the 24-hour news cycle, than just get, their job is to keep your eyes on their show. Their show. They want you to watch all the time. And so they'll show you horrible images and talk about the world's coming to an end and everything's going down the tubes. They'll say anything to get you to keep on watching, especially their stupid commercials. And stupid they are.
I was just thinking about that. I mentioned it before, but in an hour show, there's 20 minutes of commercials. All right. And so on the cable channels, it's the same commercial over and over and over. And sometimes they'll play it twice in a row. I mean, you just finish watching, it comes right back on again, and you see it again. So it's programming. It's in your face all the time. I think we should have the right to watch a show without commercials. I mean, put it on at the end of the hour, the beginning of the hour, and what do they do? You're watching a show right in the middle of an important point. They put a commercial. It's never in when somebody's just going wah, 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 and you should put it in there. But no, I'm gonna get, and then they chop it. So you have to stay and watch the commercial to see what happens after the commercial. It's a sad way to control people to watch your show. But like you're saying, for me, I watch a lot of TV. I watch all these dating shows and all. I watch how the society's changing. These 60, 90-day romances and all these kind of things that are out there. Uh, when the dating shows where they meet 25 guys and they got to pick one in a couple months which one they want to marry. But it's giving these children the idea, like, and the show that's on gives the children the idea that they should have sex with these people first before they decide who they want to go with. And it's all programming that's not good for children.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was on after 10 o'clock and they made a curfew for children, but see, parents don't care enough to do that. We got Trump and the presidency and what's happening to try to make us think of programmed ideas like the virus. Don't breathe, you're going to die. Don't go out, you're going to die. You're going to be. Now Trump's putting the army next to the White House. Don't go out, you can't come here now. Uh, Freedom is a good word, and it can be a bad word. You don't have the freedom to go out and kill anybody you want. You don't have the freedom to beat up anybody you want. I mean, when you say, well, I can do anything I want because there's no laws that stop me from doing it. But as far as like what you do now, when a person is in this space and they're going through depression, and depression's probably one way it opens them up for things to affect them, and they're willing. I mean, Bob Dylan did a 2 minute, couple minutes thing on it. He says he opened up to Lucifer. He said he sold his soul to the devil, and he said when he did that, everything in his life changed. Every song he ever wrote from then on became a gold album. No matter who he gave it to, whoever sang his song, it became a gold record. He says he wasn't the only person to sell out his soul to do that. I mean, there's a couple movies on that and stuff. Whether people believe in that or not is one thing. If you do, you still open yourself up to that to happen. And usually what you focus on, you can bring it into your reality. So if you're focusing on entities and demons and all that stuff, it allows it to affect you. So when a child, let's get into what you do now. Usually who's the first person to recognize or feel or sense that somebody's possessed? The mother, the father, the child? And how does it grow into, okay, that's what we think it is or we know it is?
I think that the most dangerous type of possession is the possession where a spirit is trying to control someone emotionally. Negative spirits, be they just people who are dead and are negative, or demonic spirits, which are a different breed altogether, throw out a huge amount of rage and anger. That rage and anger actually enters into our emotional system and greatly exaggerates and amplifies it. And we get the impression that that's ourself. And of course, thoughts are also transmitted with this emotional energy, which means that maybe not all of the thoughts are our own. Now, I want to make a little disclaimer here before I go on. I am not saying that all violent crime out there and all maniacs who go into office buildings with shotguns are possessed. They're not. It's very important that you understand that. I'm not making excuses for people, but there's a percentage of these situations where I think that some of these people are getting attacked by negative spirits, and a lot of rage and anger is coming into their system, and they're susceptible to attack because of their emotional state. Perhaps they lost their job. Maybe there's drugs involved. There's something that I call temporary possession, which I think is far more common. That happens usually when a person is in an extreme state of anguish, rage, anger, or under the influence, essentially in a blackout stage with alcohol or drugs. Now, I want everybody out there to understand that I am not against alcohol and drugs. There is, most people use alcohol and drugs very responsibly, but some people do not, and they have problems with it. And when people go into blackouts, it is possible for something else to step in. I've been doing this for 30 years. Exorcisms and working with people with negative energy and families that have problems and people that have problems from every walk of life and every profession. And so it can happen to anybody. Temporary possession is the most common form of possession. It can happen all it takes is 5 seconds of you losing control and blacking out and something else kind of stepping in. And before you know it, your significant other is lying on the floor, or we have a protest walking by my apartment building here. I think a Black Lives Matter protest, which I fully support. And so if you hear some people in the background, that's what it is. They're carrying signs and everything. I'm kind of watching them out there, and so it's a pretty large one today, which is I support fully. So it's a nice peaceful protest. I don't see any police in riot gear or anything. And by the way, I have nothing against the police. So yes, the bad ones, sure. And you also have bad protesters that are pretending to be protesters that are actually thieves, looting and burning and robbing and all that. So there's problems on both sides. But just want to say, if you hear some noise out there, that's what it is. There are clearly about 1,000 people walking outside of my building right now, and I have my window open. But anyway, possession is something I think that happens more frequently than people think. It can also, one of the things that people don't understand is that the spirit that is attacking a person does not need to be close to you. They can actually throw anger and rage and also connect telepathically from a distance. On a non-physical level, there's no such thing as distance. And so they don't need to be like inside of you. They can actually be from a distance. And so honking cars as well. There's cars out there as well. So the Black Lives Parade, Black Lives Matter, excuse me, like I said, which I fully support. And so possession is something that I think is very common, far more common than we would like to believe. One of the things that demonic spirits and negative spirits like to do is they'd like to destroy the fabric of the family as well. So they also attack families. They attack people in power in order to get them to, do really wild and violent and crazy things. And they, try to get individuals to do violent things as well. And unfortunately, there's not always a big reason. One of the, I've been doing this since 1992 professionally, but I kind of started in 1990, just doing this on my own before I brought this to the public in 1992. And so one of the, things that I see, is that, people have the wrong impression, I think, about what negative spirits can do and what they can't do, and what there are certain laws. As you can see, there are not cars turning over in the streets by themselves. It's really not like a Hollywood movie, and they would prefer that you don't see them, that they're not known, that you don't believe in them, and so. But they are out there. Negative spirit. Simply, anybody who is dead is a spirit. And to a certain extent, we all are spirits. We all have a non-physical part of ourselves that is eternal, our soul. Our soul is not a light or battery inside of us. It's actually who we are. It's us. Our soul is us. It's who we are. The only thing that we leave on the earth when we die in the physical world is our physical body. The rest of us comes along with us, including our personality. Good news for some, really bad news for others.
Well, I listen to you and I agree with just about everything you said. And The future is created. We can make it better or worse. We need to choose consciously choose what we want to do with the future. But to get everybody to agree on something's really hard nowadays. Uh, and I feel the only thing that would really help that is if people accepted the same kind of an idea that there's a God, which I think would help everybody if they actually believed in one God, one, not 10, 20, or 100. But no God to me means it's like then we are all free to do whatever we want. And freedom usually leads to chaos because what's good for one person is not good for another person. And to say we all have to accept it, I said if we were all in a peaceful state, we all loved each other, would we be having sex with each other? Would we have? I mean, when the hippie days started, uh, and all these things started becoming like group sex and group this, and everybody was part of it. Uh, it was partially going in a good way, but the government was against it as well. They didn't want world peace. That was so far from making money for civilization. Uh, so when you open yourself up, and like I said, a lot of people in these colleges and schools and things like that. I mean, kids are doing drugs in school at 10 years old now. I worked in a school, and it's pathetic because the principal said you can't kiss in the hallways, can't make out, and you can't wear a dress so low or so high, and all the kids still did it. I mean, they had dogs come into the school once a month, never tell the kids what time, so they would check all the lockers. So it's because your friend does it, and it's the old saying, "Well, my friend can do it, your friend does it, so I have to do it." And I think about that. I never smoked, but everybody around me smoked. I didn't drink.
I, let me just answer that, real quickly in my own way. I do not believe in drug testing. When I was growing up in high school, there was no drug testing, not for sports, not for anything. When I was in the military, there was no drug testing. They did not have the technology when I was in the military. I was in the military right after the Vietnam War. They did not have any drug testing. And so people were smoking weed and whatever. I think one of the problems that's happening today is that that adults, the authority figures, have their thumb screws down on children so hard that they can't move left or right. And I don't really blame them for experimenting with drugs. Kids are going to do that anyway. But one of the problems is this drug testing. So what kids are doing today is they're, getting a hold of drugs that they might be able to explain. So essentially, when I was growing up, it was mostly like marijuana. There was a little cocaine around, maybe a little LSD and mushrooms, that kind of thing. I'm not advocating anything here, people. I'm just telling you how it was when I was growing up in the 70s as a teenager. And I graduated from high school in 1978. Then I went into the Air Force. But I think that drug testing leads to more problems, and that it's really none of the school's business what kids are doing at home anyway. I think that's more what a parent's job, not the school's job to be to say what kids can do after school and at night. When I'm not, I've lived in Las Vegas twice and I moved around the country a little bit, but I mean, I'm in Milwaukee right now and I grew up here, and I recently went back. I spent a summer in the same suburb right next to Milwaukee that I grew up in along Lake Michigan here. There were no children playing outside without their parents. When I grew up, we wouldn't be caught dead with our parents. We didn't have any cell phones. They didn't know where's Jeffrey? They call up, a friend would call up my mother, where's Jeffrey? I don't know. Probably out destroying the world, when is he going to be back for lunch? I guarantee it. See you later. I think just kids are like, they're too tracked, they're too under control, there's too much pressure on them. And I think that leads to problems as well. Also, you mentioned something earlier I wanted to bring up very quickly. When I was growing up in 1970, the law for alcohol in Wisconsin was 18. Most of the countries I go to in Europe, the law is 18. in many places in Europe, you can actually buy packaged liquor and bring it home, like beer and wine when you're 16. I'm sure a lot of kids out there are digging this right now, but because I go to Europe quite often, and so I'm not advocating any of this stuff. What I'm saying is that um, when I was growing up, we would kind of sneak into the bar. They didn't have these sophisticated, everybody wasn't getting carded. We could as long as you had some money on you, you could kind of go into a bar when you were like 16 and you put a 20 on the bar, and there was a pretty good chance that they were going to, are you 18? No, I'm 19. Okay. Everybody didn't have an ID too. It was, it was like, it was very different back then. And so what I'm trying to get at is this. I learned how to drink by watching my elders drink, by watching adults drink. And so that's why how I tempered it a little bit. We saw we went to bars when we were young. We were able to get into them, and we saw people and how much they would drink and how they would act in bars and things like that. You had mentioned college parties. One of the problems, I think, is when they raise the age to 21, like here in Wisconsin. Some places it's always been 21. But like right down in Chicago, which is very close to here, but the problem is that they have no one to teach them how to drink, and so they go to these parties and they just simply overdo it because they have never been taught how to drink. And so, as far as I'm concerned, if you're 18 years old and you're old enough to go into the military, if you're old enough to go to jail, if you're old enough to sign your name to a piece of paper, you're old enough to drink. You're old enough to do drugs. That's my own opinion. Now, I'm not advocating illegal drugs. But like I said before, I've been a long-time advocate of the legalization of marijuana and hashish, and I actually wrote the Soft Drugs Legalization Act of 2002, which was declined by Congress, but at least I had a long talks with Congress about it at the time, and tried my best to get it legalized countrywide in the United States in 2002. And I'm sorry I failed, but I did try. And so I just think that kids are being controlled today through the media in so many ways they don't even have a fighting chance, and I don't think there's anything wrong with children. I think they're exposed to excessive amounts of violence, video games that are beyond imagination with violence, teaching people how to kill without reason as a game. Killing is no game. And as a guy who's in the military can tell you, and I was in the military, and they're just, and at the same time, they're getting, just absolutely controlled by the adults around them. The parents won't let them out of the house. There's the people out there trying to get you. There's no more people out there trying to get people today than there were when I was growing up. It's just not true. It's just stuff you see in the media. Somebody gets kidnapped, which is a horrible thing, and all of a sudden the whole world is on lockdown. Watch it. There's, we were unaware of these things when I was growing up, meaning that we didn't know that somebody got kidnapped in California. We might look at it in the paper or something, but when I was a kid, we were allowed to 10 years old, we were allowed to go out to the airport to watch planes land. I live in a major city too. We were allowed to go, anywhere we wanted to. We didn't hang around our parents and stuff like that. When I was in high school, we had like half barrel parties, and the police wouldn't even bother us, much less parents and stuff. I just, I'm not trying to just promote drugs or alcohol here. It's not what it's about. I just think there's too much control going on of people under 18 and people over 18 in this country and also in this world. Way too much control by authority figures.
Well, the book that I'm working on right now, I'm learning so many things about laws and things like that. But Here's the thing I always say: what makes a person 18? What makes a person 21? One day from the day before you can't drink, one day after you can drink. What changed in your reality that made it different from the day before? Nothing. When you're 16 or 18, what changes in one day? Now, and I've been exploring other countries. Now, in other countries, children 4 years old cook dinner for their family. I mean, children 12 have two husbands already or two wives, and the laws are so different. And it's not based on a specific number, like a number means you're an adult. I know adults 60 years old that still act like kids. I know kids that act like adults. So to say that this number, because you turned 18, I mean, if you really want to get to it, just ask them, are you mature enough to drink? Are you mature enough to drive a car? I mean, some states you can drive a car when you're 16. All right. Some it's 18, some it's 17. So there's a lot of boundaries that get crossed, even though they say in this United States, 21 is an important age because now you're legal to do whatever you want. But 18, like you said, you can go to war, you can do a lot of things, and you can't drink. Why? You're risking your life on a battlefield and you can't go home and drink. You're supposed to just sit there and think about it.
I think you can in the military, on a military base. They federal law is different than Trump state law. I hate Trump used that word because I do not like that person. But let's just say that I think it's different on a military base. But you're right. You know, and I think that's one of the problems. You bring up a really good point, Tommy. You're 18 years old. You're on your own. You know, you're responsible for everything. But somehow they feel that you are not old enough to handle alcohol. Well, it's really none of their business. The fact is that you're 18 years old. You have the right to drink. That's what I think. There are just too many laws in this country. You know, in the United States, too many laws. You heard it right. Too many laws. Too much control. Okay. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, like I said before, it's none of the school's business what kids do after school. So if a kid wants to go out and smoke some weed and go to a half-bill party on a Friday night, that's their business. It's not the school's business. They have no business drug testing these kids. It's wrong. You know, let me tell you something very quickly. I think maybe you'll find this interesting. This would be about 1978, my last year in high school. And the class president, we had a giant whole high school meeting in the auditorium, giant auditorium. And so these guys are running for class president. The class president, who actually won, and all the teachers were there too, and the principals, you know, everybody was there, the whole school and faculty. He ran on that if he won, that he would have a half-bill party at his house every weekend. We were all under 18. Okay? And so, I mean, and he won.
Well,
and he did have the parties.
See,
you know? And nobody said anything. The teachers are like, no, it's none of our business. You know, it's after school. You do what you want. You know, not anymore. You know, it's like what is inside of your body is your business. It's nobody's business what you do. And this becomes a problem, and you become a problem person, start hurting people, stealing, and become a problem with the law. It's nobody's damn business what's in your body. I don't agree with them going in there and being able, insurance companies or anything, to go in there and you know, for like job applications. Ridiculous to go in there, take your blood or your urine or a piece of your hair and to see what you've been ingesting in your body. When I was growing up, that was unheard of. That was simply not done nor allowed.
Well, you know, we have this point.
These kids got it rough today. No wonder they're cracking under the pressure. I would not put up with that crap.
Well, children should have the
Nor would
right.
I subject my children to that. Now, I don't have any children. I was never married. I have a girlfriend. She's a very beautiful woman who lives in Germany, and she's just wonderful. And so I'm in a long-term commitment. But the idea is that hopefully lifetime. You know, but I just cannot imagine growing up today with these kind of pressures on children, you know, to what's in your body, you have to succeed, you turn in people, and everybody's your enemy. My God, when I was growing up, the last thing we talked about in high school was politics and religion.
Well, for me,
We were talking about, who was the hottest girls. I'm a guy, right? So we're talking about who the hot girls were, or where's the party this weekend, or hey, let's go to the Rush concert, or the Yes concert, a Pink Floyd concert. This is the kind of stuff we were talking about. We were talking about politics and religion and stuff when I was growing up. This is, give yourself a chance to have some fun first before you get into that rabbit hole.
what I would say, like, the word is awareness. When you teach a child, you have to give them an awareness of something. You can't force them to do it, which people think they can. All right. If you know good effects and bad effects of something, and you a child and you want to experience, you will, no matter what, anyway. But guidelines of like to teach a child when is the limit, when you know you can't stand up, or you don't take another gallon of beer and chug it down, and you don't go to a party that you don't know the people at. You don't do things that, and you can't make them not do it, but you have to give them the rules, not the rules, but what happens in society. How when guys get drunk, they are pretty ignorant in general. Marijuana is totally different. A marijuana party versus a drinking party is two different worlds. So, but when parents say you can't do this, like girls can't go out until they're 16. She's 16 now, you go out and get whatever happens. All these little things, that awareness that a child needs to learn by themselves, for themselves. It protects them. But if a parent's teaching you the wrong morals, how can you learn the right morals without any experience? Whatever you talk about without experience in it, you can't talk about it. So when you say, well, drugs are bad, why? Because everybody else said drugs are bad? LSD is bad because everybody else. I know a person directly who was feeding the army the LSD. It wasn't even called LSD because it was 6 times stronger. But he was the one supplying it to them, and they were training the army on LSD. It was right before you got into the war, but it was during Vietnam. So it was a learning period for the people that did it as well. My friends came back from Vietnam. One of them was thrown out because he went out with the tank and came back without it. I mean, there's things that happen.
Well, you know what? I was like I said, I was in the military right after the Vietnam War, and it was pretty. We got our asses kicked over there, and rightly so. And that might sound shocking, the fact we had no business over there. It was a trumped up war, and 58,000 Americans dead, plus lost limbs and families and all the rest. And come on, we could have taken out North Vietnam in 5 minutes. 10 years. It was a war of attrition. To see how many people we could kill, and hopefully they would give up. They did not give up. They didn't give up when the French were there. Anybody who studied history would know that was not going to work. But yeah, and when I went in, everybody was sick of fighting. They had 10 years of death, and so when I went in the military, it was just very different. There were no wars going on. I didn't know it was going to come up. For all I know, anything would come up. The Cold War was happening, and so we had problems with Russia and China back then. We think you think we have problems with Russia and China right now. When I was growing up, we were on the edge of nuclear war every day, and we're hiding under our desks, for drills and stuff. You see it in the newsreels of yesteryear. I grew up that way. The drill would go, siren would go off, and we would be hiding under our desk in case a nuclear bomb would go off. We'd know that our desk could protect us from that nuclear radiation. And
we have like 15 minutes for the rest of the show, but what I want to do is I want to gear it to you so that people might understand what they get if they call you, what they would go through, and how it all works for a person that you work with. Because, like I said, what you do is important for the world right now. And why would a person want to call you? Say, look, I'm putting my word on him that I trust him. I would trust him with my own children. So if I'm telling you to go out, I trust that you would be treated well and given the benefits that hospitals and doctors will not give you, because he understands it, whether they don't. So what I'm going to do is let you try to get into a little more details, like uh, what's the best time to get you? Is it good for people to call you morning, noon, and night? When somebody's in extreme danger, can they call you? I mean, they can go into your site. That helps a lot too. If you don't know who Jeffery Steelman is, go into his site, read about him, and it'll help you understand that he's here right now. And I mean, I wish people calling in, but tell a person like they can get you online, they can get you on the phone, and they'll get you, and you get back to the people that call you. You don't like pick out people who you don't want to talk to. I mean, some people do that. I know I can't get to Oprah, and I was trying to get in touch with her for 25 years. So, but he's a person, like I said, if you call him, he will work with you. And if you do have a serious problem going on in your life, and learning what these problems are, maybe you might feel that something's going on. He's a good person to talk to because he knows the good part, bad parts, and how it grows and disappears. So again, he works over the phone, which I don't. So don't be afraid to call him. If you have a problem that, see, we didn't really say the problems, but like, let's just talk about that a little. Like a child, he's going to school. He's having problems with the kids around him. He's having problems with his mother's drinking when he goes home. Uh, and suddenly he feels he wants to do something. And he's getting violent or he's getting angry. He's getting frustrated, which is actually opening the door for negativity to sink in. So yeah, let's do hardcore drugs. Let's do that. When's the point that a child can? I can't say young children would know themselves, but like an older child where he can actually perceive like something's coming in, something's affecting me. That's not right. When's that usually happen? I would say I would assume like around 14, or I mean, children younger that I know they have a hard time communicating with their parents in most cases. No parent wants to hear their child's possessed or admit it. I mean, you can take it from there.
The real issue is how we treat each other, Tommy. And it's the negative spirits and negative and demonic spirits are a secondary issue. How we treat each other as human beings is really the problem. We all generate emotional energy. My job is to help people release emotional energy through energy work, straight energy work. So I can help people wherever they are in the world from where I am at. I don't have to see people physically. I did for years. Sometimes I still do, but I'm so well known now that I help people in China, in the Mideast, and all around the world in places. There's no point in just traveling for one specific job because exorcisms is not all that I do. I do clearings on people, which means that I focus on them through a picture and a telephone call. I do not send energy through the telephone line. Okay, this is a very scientific procedure. It's not religious. It's not hooked in with any religion. I am not hooked in with any religion. I do not even consider it to be spirituality. I consider it to be science, although it is non-physical science. So I clear people of negative emotional energy. We all generate both positive and negative energies. Feelings have a corresponding energy to them. And so what I'll do is I'll focus in on that person. I'll have them lie down after talking to them when they make an appointment. I'll talk to them for a while, maybe 15 minutes or so, and then do a 45-minute personal clearing on that person. I'm using their picture. I also work through Skype, Zoom, Messenger, and telephone and picture. And so when I work through Skype, I usually, I talk to the person visually, and then I have them lie down out of the picture because I work with my eyes closed. And so there's no reason for me to see the person when I'm clearing them. But very often when I'm working through Skype, I'll talk to the person visually or Zoom, and then I will, that allows me to focus in and lock into their energy fields. And what I do is I run energy through them that is from the non-physical side of the universe, essentially. And that loosens up negative emotional energy that's trapped in our body's energy field. And I actually push it down through that person and release it, eventually making its way down into the ground, into the earth. This is a scientific process, and it's got nothing to do with spirituality and religion. And I can explain now. We don't have enough time here in this particular show, but I can explain. I'd be happy if you call me, email me, Skype, Zoom, whatever. That I'd be happy to explain to you exactly how I work. And I do in my audio lessons too, which are available on the front page of my website at the bottom. And so it's a science. And it's not, when I release emotional energy from people, it's not an emotional experience for me nor the person I'm working on. And also, all clients are confidential, by the way. I do not discuss clients individually. Because a lot of my clients, are very well-known people, and I wouldn't do it anyway, but all clients are confidential. That's the best way to say it. But anyway, I'm simply running a non-physical energy or energies through them that have a known effect upon negative emotional energy, not positive energy, but negative emotional energy. It's not a painful procedure on an emotional, psychological, or energetic level or physical level of any kind. It actually, most people just report feeling very, very relaxed and comfortable for the 45 minutes. And so, I come from a business family, and so, I created an individual clearing to last 1 hour, meaning I talk to a person for about 15 minutes or so. I don't charge by the hour, I charge by the session. And then a 45-minute is a good amount of standard clearing, because I've done about 3,000 or 4,000 clearings in my life, probably a lot more than that, and so, and that's, probably widely, understated. And so it's actually very pleasant, and it has an immediate effect. And also, I clear homes, and I clear businesses. Businesses have, people are inside of these businesses. They generate emotional energy, and they release it into the atmosphere. It cannot be measured by a physical instrument, but it can be felt. So if you have a restaurant or something, and it's not doing well, and you don't know why, and this happens a lot, it may be because a place does not feel right to customers going in there. We all have had experiences of walking into somebody's home, apartment, condominium, or whatever, business, restaurant, and the place doesn't feel right. What you're picking up on is emotional energy. And that is what I release and push and clear out of people's homes all around the world, and also businesses, which I work on far more than I usually get a chance to talk about, and also people. I work on children, I work on pets, a lot more than people might think, and so when it comes to children, I usually work on them when they're sleeping, because it just, if they're young, they just don't understand. They get the feeling there's something wrong with them when the parents are really just trying to clear negative energy out of them, get them feeling better. So it's not necessary that they know, that I'm doing that, because, they might look me up on the internet or something and say, oh my God, he also does exorcisms. I'm not possessed, no, you're not. I'm just clear, 70% of my work is just simply doing clearings of people, property, businesses, and such. I also teach people how to protect themselves from negative energy sent by other people. When people are thinking about you, they're actually sending you energy. They don't have to know where you are. They just have to know who you are. It's kind of like a telepathic thing. They can send energy. So I work with a lot of people who are very well known, because the idea is that, they're known by hundreds of thousands or millions of people, and they're being sent a lot of energy, and that accumulates in their body's energy field, and that causes problems. And so clearing is in order. And look at my website and see that I'm very easy to talk to, and I have no problem answering questions. I do not charge for consultations because I want to see if I can, if I'm even able to help you. There's no point in me charging a person unless I know that I'm even able to help them. So there are people I turn down. We talked about that before. You mentioned that. I don't accept everybody as a client. If I feel that they are unstable, or that they're not serious, or they're just trying to test me for their own purposes or something, it's like, see ya.
No, I understand that.
I'm not impolite about it, but I'm sorry I can't help you. It's not a game. What I do is very serious. What I do, and I'm a very lighthearted person. But I mean that I'm very polite. But I'm am I going to take abuse? No.
You can sense that in a person within 5 minutes of talking to them, right?
Yes.
So then, people make judgments just because you look this way, you got glasses on, your hair's this or that. But you're tuning into that part of them that's really important, which they don't even know about, and it's why they don't even know that you can perceive who they are really. No, I think that's incredible, because most people will take your money no matter what they can do, knowing that they usually can't do anything for you. I work with many psychics, the top in the line. My best friend when I was young was the top psychic in the United States. And I proved everything she said. I mean, if she said something that I didn't quite believe, I would go out and prove it one way or another. But we worked together for 3 years. And we got together about 3-4 times a week for a couple hours at a time. But we found things out that nobody wanted to hear. Like even when one guy from the Rolling Stones died, she said she was talking as him, and she said I was drowned by 2 people, and they only came out with that a couple of years ago that he might have been drowned. But when she said things, I would search it out. But I was doing ghost busting. I don't do it anymore. I just didn't feel that's the direction I wanted to stay in. But when I was 16, I was going to haunted houses and freeing spirits. I went to one of the most famous houses in the United States to free the spirits in there. And one of them was, you heard the famous battle of Hamilton and Aaron Burr. Well, Aaron Burr shot Hamilton and killed him. But it was over at Madame Jumel, who lived in the Jumel Mansion, and that's where we went every week. But I learned about that. And I didn't read. I didn't have anybody teaching me. I never had anybody working with me directly for anything. Science fair project, anything I did, it was only me, and guided by what I felt. So, when you tune into that, you can do a lot of things. I didn't go to college. I didn't want to go to college. I quit high school in the last year. So, and then I got my degree, my diploma later on the next year. But everything I did was from inside. And when a person goes deeper inside themselves rather than listen to all these people talking everywhere, like you said, it's so much easier to get truth from the inside than the outside. And you work from the inside as well. You're not just looking at their character, the way they walk and talk. So, that's why I love bringing you on, because I know you work with people that need it. You're not out there working with making money, taking anybody. Oh, you can come to me, I'll heal you. Heal me of my karma, really? I killed 10 people. You're just gonna wipe it away? And I'm fine. That's like, so this is the real world, and I try to keep it as real as I can for what I know and what I teach and what I work with. And I know you do too. That's why I bring you on. I'm still thinking of doing a conference. I'm still thinking about doing a workshop and put yours and mine together, because we didn't talk about protection, how to do it, and work on things like that. People need to know it. It's not complicated. Even reading a person's aura is beneficial. If you see a person's aura is black or gray or brown, you don't want to associate with them, or you shouldn't be. If this person's radiating this blue light, white light, you could have good pleasure talking to them. So little things that help us move along in life how many people do it? How many people even know how to do it? How many people teach it? So I wanted to open a spiritual school many, many years ago when I was on the lecture scene in UFO World. I had Almaine Barton, who's a really famous person out there, uh, a couple other names. I can't say the rest of them, but we were going to open up a spiritual community in this. It was $1 million house that we were going to work in. But while we were there, all the so-called spiritual people were fighting with each other, and it became to a point we all split apart. So when spiritual people can't get to work together, something's wrong. I mean, like you said, if you're compassionate, you have a heartfelt ability. I mean, I sound hardcore all the time, but I'm more sensitive to just about everything happening on the planet on a daily basis than most people are. I mean, and people say, well, why aren't you smiling? I said, I'm on planet Earth, and I could feel and sense what's happening to these children on the planet and the things that are going on. We don't need it. We shouldn't have it. And you think after 30,000 years, we wouldn't have boxing as a main sport out there. A person's allowed to beat somebody up and get paid for it. I mean, these things that take us out. And I go into a whole thing about the sports world, and it's a phobia of men to play with balls. That's the way I describe all the sports. Every sport has a ball, 90% of them, and it's fighting over a ball. I said, that's all you got to fight over? I mean, you go out and kill somebody in Vietnam, but you got to come home and fight over a ball. But our morals have shifted greatly to invisible, and the morals that people created are pretty vain. Money.
Just remember before you go on that one of my favorite comedian, I saw him out in Las Vegas when I lived out there, and I lived out there twice. And so that famously said many times in his monologues that one of the reasons that missiles are shaped like penises, the guy thing.
Even in the woman's
It's
thing.
really, I don't think it's necessarily completely true. I mean, there's a aerodynamic thing to that, but the idea is that it is an interesting thought. There certainly is not enough estrogen in control of the world. There's not a balance. We don't. There's no balance of male and female energy in our world today. Women are still subjugated. Not only in third world countries, but also in major countries. And some would disagree with that and say, wait a minute, I've gotten all these freedoms, but if you take a look, at how women are being treated in our society today, it's total imbalance in the government, total imbalance in business, and in pay, in just about everything. It's better than it was, but we still have a lot of problems, and that needs to be corrected. And that's been going on for thousands of years. And I think that's one of the issues that we have going on today.
Well, the only thing is we do shows, we put truth out there. If people want to listen, they do. If people need help, they need to go to the right people. And that you'll learn over time, right people, wrong people. Oh, I was with this guy for 50 years, 30 years. And what'd you get? What do you know? Did it help you? I said, if it doesn't help you, you don't need it. A religion, if it helps you, fine. If it doesn't, you don't need it. If it helps you move along in life and it makes you feel good, I mean, if suddenly you're going against the grain, hurting, and I said, if it hurts somebody else, it's wrong. You can hurt yourself all you want, but when you go to hurt somebody else, then you're affecting reality of other people, and it's not your right. I mean, we're here to do everything we do actually hurts us. When we drink, when we smoke, when we eat bad food, everything, we breathe toxic air, is all affecting us. I mean, we don't control a lot of it, but we don't judge it either. I mean, if somebody wants to smoke 10 times more than somebody else, that's their choice, I think. I mean, we're all going to die no matter how we eat, what we do, what we wear, where we go. So realizing that, I mean, Buddha said, always think about dying every minute, because every minute brings you closer to death. And people say, well, that's a horrible thing to do. No, I look at it a better way. Getting closer to be free of the body. And to me, that's the freest you can become. Until you explore that realm, you don't understand it. So, our time's kind of running out, but it's always a pleasure to bring you on. And you can come on anytime you want. We set up a show anytime you want. And again, just tell everybody your site again, because maybe they didn't write it down, or how to get in touch with you, so that uh, there is a way for them to reach out if they need it.
Well, my name is Jeffery Seelman, and my website is starclear.com. StarClear, starclear.com. You can pretty much, punch my name or that in any search engine, you'll find me. Just go to the starclear.com and you'll go to my website, and there you will see a lot of information about me, all of my contact information, a lot of the radio shows and television shows I've been on in the last 30 years. And I was on Sightings. I've been on Coast to Coast 6 times as a guest. I've been on a lot of media shows, and I enjoy doing them most of the time. And but the important thing is that people get information, and I just want you to know that you can certainly contact me, and it won't cost you anything to get information from me as far as how I work and to see if I can help you. And I do not record conversations of any kind. I don't even take notes, whether you're my client or not. That's for security reasons. And you can even schedule online on my website if you want, and by yourself without even talking to me. I have a very sophisticated system. My background is in technology. And I also happen to be a psychic. So I'm not only a psychic, but I'm a psychic that loves technology. So when I was talking earlier about internet and this and that, I used to work for an internet company when the internet was new, and I loved it. And I used it for my, to help, get what I want, airline tickets and concert tickets and all the things I love to do, besides the work that I do. So the problem is not technology. The problem is that we simply don't have a filter up. We tend to take this stuff in and we don't process it and say, you know what, maybe that's true and maybe it's not. I'm not saying deny facts or anything like that, in this fake news crap. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying be discerning. And also that I think, parents are letting their kids on the internet way too much without control. I know when I worked for an internet company, we had a program that supposedly would keep kids off of certain sites. It did not work. And I don't know if they have that today or not, because I don't have any kids. I'm 60 years old. I have a girlfriend. She lives in Germany, and a wonderful woman. And the internet is not the problem. The problem is that we need to be more discerning and not take it so seriously. I'm not talking about what you buy on Amazon or airline tickets or whatever. I'm talking about when the people's opinions. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. And that includes the people on the television news, that includes the talk shows, and that includes the social media and all of that. Everybody's got their opinion, and that's all it is, And I'm not denying facts at all. What I'm saying is that don't let it upset you, because actually, if you look at the statistics, there is less violence happening in our world right now than ever before in history. We're going to make it through these hard times. We're going to succeed. And eventually we're going to go out and spread ourselves around the universe. And I think that's a good thing. I'm not talking about taking over planets, but I think we'll terraform, and I think we'll do this and that. And I think we're doing that, we're reaching out already. We want to go out. We want to meet people from other planets, We're very, I think we will, and I think we'll be seeing them very soon. That is my guess.
Well, I appreciate it.
Educated guess.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Jeffery Seelman, my name's Tommy Hawksblood. You can email me, text me on Skype, Hawksblood11. I rather talk to a person on video than on a computer and typing. But my email is Hawksblood1, HAWKSBLOOD1 at AOL.com. You can call me, text me questions, answers, whatever. Opinions, ideas, anytime. Want to get in touch with Jeffery, get in touch with him. Want to ask me questions about Jeffery, I can tell you nothing good, nothing bad about him. So please, if you need any more questions, feel free. So till next time, I'll be doing a show
That
later
was a
on today.
Freudian slip, buddy. That was a Freudian slip. Tommy and I talk a lot off the air. We talk all the time. We're friends, so we can talk this way. So
So please, people, I hope you got something out of today. And like I said, if you really need help, there's a person to call. If you need any kind of help, he's the one to get in touch with, and he'll get back to you. Some people don't get back to me, and I don't even care anymore. I just put the truth out there. They want to hear it. They want to debate me. Please, I'm open anytime. Anybody wants to debate the truth, that's my game. So till next time, it was a pleasure, Jeffrey. So peace, love, compassion, whatever you need in your life, people. May it be what you want, and it always turn out to be better.
and with my chain, if you're wondering what's on my chain, it's a peace symbol with the chakras stones in them. So that's a peace symbol here, guys.
Well, I don't know if you see that one. That's the medicine wheel, the circle of life.
Very beautiful.
So
Very beautiful, Tommy.
we each carry things to help us stay connected, and we should. And be
Yes.
connected to who we are, and be that always. Don't let anybody else pull you out of who you are to be who they are. So that again, next time you heard it here, come back again.
Y'all come back now.